The more you chase what runs away from you, the more you lose yourself in the process. They say love is simple, that if you're kind, consistent, and genuine, people will choose you. But here's the painful truth, my friends. They don't always want the ones who care the most. They chase the ones who don't care at all. And sometimes the more value you give, the less they see it. Hey folks, imagine this. You're in the middle of a desert. You've been walking for hours. You're tired, thirsty, and sunburnt. Then suddenly, you see a bottle of water lying in the sand, open, half drunk, already warm from the heat. You walk right past it. But then, far off in the distance, you spot a tall, shiny glass of cold water sitting on a table, guarded by someone, barely in reach. And now your mind becomes obsessed with getting that one, not because it's better, but because you can't have it. That, right there, is how human attraction works. Not always logical, not always fair, but very real. People, whether they realize it or not, are drawn to what feels just out of reach. They want what seems rare, what seems unbothered, what doesn't need them to survive. And the moment someone shows too much interest, too soon, the illusion breaks. The mystery fades. The value drops. Now don't get it twisted. This isn't about playing games or being toxic. This is about understanding the psychology and philosophy behind why so many people fall for those who don't value them and ignore the ones who do. As the Stoics would say, if it is not yours by nature, it was never meant to stay. Let that sink in. You could give them loyalty, love, time, attention, and they'll still choose the one who barely looks their way. Why? Because somewhere deep in their mind, they've confused emotional chaos with connection. They mistake rejection for value. They feel more for the one who doesn't text back than the one who sends good morning messages with consistency. It's not love they're chasing, it's validation. It's not you they want. It's the feeling of being chosen by someone who clearly doesn't need them. But here's what they don't realize. The one who is calm, the one who is grounded, the one who values peace over performance. That's the one who wins in the end. So if you've ever found yourself feeling like the backup plan, like you're always the one who cares more, or like you have to dim your light just to keep someone interested, this is your wake-up call. You're not too nice. You're just giving your energy to people addicted to inconsistency. You're not boring. You're just emotionally stable, and they're not used to it. And let me say this to you loud and clear. You don't need to chase. You don't need to beg. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone who only sees your value once you stop showing up. Because the moment you stop overgiving, the moment you reclaim your time, your peace, and your power, is the moment they start noticing. But by then, you won't care, because you'll have built a life that doesn't revolve around being chosen. It revolves around being whole. So stay with me, my friends. Let's break some illusions, drop some hard truths, and rebuild the way you see yourself and your worth. Type this in the comments right now. I am already enough. And if this hits something deep, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and stay locked in. We're just getting started. 1. The scarcity trap. Why rejection feels like reward. We often mistake what is rare for what is right. Let's be real, my friends. There's something twisted about the way the human mind works, especially when it comes to love, attraction, and attention. We've been taught to believe that the harder something is to get, the more valuable it must be. But is that really true, or just another lie dressed up as wisdom? Let's say you walk into a store. There are 2 jackets on display. One is expensive, locked behind glass, and there's only one left. The other is in a big discount bin, stacks of it, easy to grab. Now, without even touching them, your brain already assumes the one behind glass is worth more. You haven't even checked the quality. You haven't worn it, but you feel it's more valuable just because it's harder to get. Now, take that same mindset and apply it to people. That person who barely texts back, who gives you breadcrumbs of attention, who's hot and cold, always busy, always distant, always on their own terms. Somewhere in your mind, you begin to believe they're worth more, not because they've shown you more, but because they've given you less. That's the scarcity trap. It's a trick your mind plays on you, and it's deadly, because suddenly love stops being about connection and starts becoming a competition. You stop asking, do they add peace to my life? And start asking, why don't they want me back? You start measuring your worth based on their absence instead of your presence. Here's the dangerous part. You start chasing rejection like it's a reward. You romanticize pain. You think that if you finally win them over, it'll mean you're enough. But let me ask you this. Enough for who? Someone who only values you when you walk away. Someone who keeps you guessing like love is a puzzle you're too dumb to solve. That's not love. That's your trauma talking. That's your fear of not being chosen playing dress-up and calling itself desire. You see, folks, we often crave the one thing we believe we can't have. Because we think, if I can get them to love me, maybe I can finally love myself. But you know what Stoicism teaches us? What stands in the way becomes the way. You don't grow by chasing people who ignore you. You grow by standing still in your worth, even when it scares the hell out of you. And I know it's not easy, because deep down, you're afraid that if you stop chasing, you'll lose them forever. You're afraid that if you walk away, they won't come after you. You fear that your silence will be met with more silence. And that's the part that hurts the most, doesn't it? But here's the truth. If someone's interest in you depends on your effort, it was never love, it was survival. You were trying to prove something, to them, to yourself, to the world. But now it's time to stop proving and start choosing. Choosing yourself. Choosing peace. Choosing to break the pattern before it breaks you. Because chasing someone who doesn't value you is like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the faster it slips away. So stop. Let go. Stand tall. You're not less worthy because they couldn't see you. You're not less lovable because they didn't choose you. You are not a clearance item. You are the limited edition that doesn't go on sale. Not because it's perfect, but because it's rare. Write this in the comments right now. I no longer chase what devalues me. Let the world see it. Let yourself feel it. Let that be your standard from this moment forward. Because what's coming next? Oh, it's powerful. We're not just going to stop chasing what hurts us. We're going to understand why we were addicted to the pain in the first place. 2. Not every storm you chase was meant to be weathered. Some were warnings, not invitations. Let's go a little deeper, my friends. Ever wonder why you keep going back to the people who confuse you? The ones who make you feel amazing one moment, then invisible the next. You tell yourself it's chemistry, but deep down, you know it's chaos. And yet somehow, that chaos feels addictive. That's not by accident, that's by design. Your brain, your body, and your wounds. They've learned to respond to emotional highs and lows, like it's a drug. Let me give you a picture. Imagine you're on a roller coaster. The anticipation builds, your heart races, the drops and turns send your body into a frenzy. Fear, thrill, excitement. And when you finally get off, your legs are shaking, your breath is short, and part of you wants to get right back in line to do it again. Why? Because your nervous system just got flooded with adrenaline, dopamine, cortisol. It doesn't care whether it was good for you. It just knows it felt intense. That's what toxic attraction feels like. It's not about love. It's about intensity. The pain, the silence, the sudden affection, the emotional whiplash. It all creates a cycle in your brain that mirrors addiction. The hot and cold behavior keeps you locked in. Because when they finally come back, when they finally show you a little bit of what you've been starving for, it feels like relief. It feels like you matter. It feels like victory. But it's not. It's just withdrawal relief. It's the moment the pain pauses, not the moment the love begins. And that's where the lie lives. Because you start believing that this is love, that the emotional roller coaster is proof that you're deeply connected. But let me ask you something. If love feels like fear, like guessing, like chasing, is it really love? Or is it emotional survival disguised as passion? The truth is, many of us were never taught what safe love feels like. So when someone shows up with calm energy, with stability, with real presence, we say, I'm just not feeling it. Not because it's wrong, but because it's unfamiliar. Some of you are bored by peace because you've been raised on emotional chaos. That's not your fault. But it is your responsibility to heal it. Because if you don't, you'll keep mistaking storms for soulmates. There's a quote I want you to remember. Don't confuse the thrill of being wanted with the peace of being valued. One burns fast and bright, then leaves you in ashes. The other builds slowly, quietly, deeply, and it lasts. But you can't feel that peace if you're still wired for panic. You can't receive real love if you're still addicted to the pain of being almost chosen. And I get it. The emotional highs feel good. They make you feel alive. That rush when they finally text back. That spike in your chest when they look at you with sudden interest. But let me tell you something hard. If the only time you feel loved is when someone finally stops withholding it, that's not love. That's manipulation. And you deserve better. Now, choosing better? That's hard. Because it requires unlearning. It requires walking away from what feels familiar. Even if it still tempts you, it means sitting with silence instead of chasing closure. It means breaking your own patterns instead of trying to fix someone who benefits from your chaos. But here's the Stoic truth. Freedom is found not in what you can control, but in what no longer controls you. And the moment you stop letting emotional highs and lows dictate your worth, you begin to reclaim your peace. You begin to see love differently. You begin to choose yourself, even when it's lonely. Because peace might not give you butterflies, but it will never give you anxiety. So the next time you feel that familiar pull towards someone who gives you just enough to stay, but never enough to feel safe, pause. Ask yourself, am I chasing love, or am I chasing the feeling of being enough? Because you already are. Write this in the comments right now. I choose peace over panic. Let it be a declaration to yourself, to the world. Let people know you're done chasing the chaos that once fooled you into thinking it was love. And stay with me, because up next, we're exposing one of the deepest reasons people chase the ones who reject them. It's not about love at all. It's about the ego's need to win. And once you understand that, everything changes. 3. The ego doesn't want love. It wants victory, even if it means losing yourself to get it. You think you're chasing love, don't you? But my friends, the deeper truth is this. Half the time it's not love you're after, it's the win. The feeling of being chosen by someone who keeps pushing you away. That little hit of validation when they finally look your way, reply to your message, or give you a crumb of attention. That's not romance. That's your ego begging to be fed. Let me paint a picture. Imagine you're playing a rigged carnival game. You throw the ball again and again, and it always bounces off, just missing the prize. The game is loud, frustrating, and designed to keep you trying. The more you lose, the more you want to win. Not because you need the prize, but because you hate the feeling of failure. Your pride is on the line now. You want to beat the game, not because the prize is valuable, but because losing is unacceptable. That's what happens when you chase someone who doesn't really want you. It stops being about connection and starts being about correction. You want to fix the story in your head. You want to win them over so you can finally feel like you're good enough. You don't want them. You want their approval. You want to rewrite the ending. You want the final chapter to say, they changed. They chose me. I won. But you didn't win. You just delayed the truth. And here's the truth. Someone who couldn't see your value the first time probably never saw it at all. They were just a mirror reflecting back the doubts you already had about yourself. You thought if they finally loved you, you'd feel whole. But let's be honest, did you ever feel whole around them? Or were you constantly performing, adjusting, shrinking yourself to earn their scraps of affection? And what's wild is, even when you know it's toxic, even when your gut is screaming, this isn't right, you stay. Why? Because your ego whispers, don't walk away yet. What if they come around? What if you're just one more text, one more effort, one more sacrifice away from finally being enough? But listen to me. That voice, that's not your intuition. That's your insecurity pretending to be hope. The ego doesn't care how much it costs you. Your peace, your dignity, your time. It just wants to win. It wants to be picked. And when you're stuck in that cycle, every rejection feels like a challenge, not a red flag. You turn their coldness into a puzzle to solve. You tell yourself, if I just show them how good I am, if I'm more patient, more giving, more perfect, maybe they'll see me. But you were never supposed to convince someone of your worth. Love is not a courtroom, and you're not on trial. Stop pleading for a verdict that should have been obvious from day one. Let's break the illusion. If someone only wants you after you've suffered, waited, begged, or sacrificed your identity, that's not love. That's ego warfare. And the prize at the end? Emptiness. Because even if you win them, you'll lose the most important thing, yourself. As the Stoics would say, what you chase out of desperation will never bring you peace. And peace, my friends, is where real power lives. Not in their texts, not in their attention, not in the fantasy that Maybe one day they'll finally see your value. Number. It lives in that quiet moment when you say, I don't need to win them to feel like I matter. You don't need to fight for space in someone's life. You don't need to prove your heart belongs to someone who never earned it. And you sure as hell don't need to lose sleep over someone who's sleeping just fine without you. So the next time your ego flares up and says, go back, try again, win them, take a breath, step back, and ask yourself, is this love, or is this just my pride trying to fix a wound that isn't mine to fix? Because when you choose peace over pride, self-respect over chasing, healing over hoping, you don't just walk away, you rise. And you rise in a way that no one can ignore. You rise in silence, in strength, in self-worth. And when they finally turn around to look for you, you'll already be gone. Write this in the comments right now. I choose peace over ego. Let it be your reminder, your vow, your new standard. Because next, we're going even deeper. We're talking about why being loved, truly loved, feels terrifying for some people, and why they run from it the moment it shows up. Stay with me. The healing's just getting started. 4. Some people don't run from love because they don't want it. They run because deep down, they don't believe they deserve it. You ever show up with your whole heart, only to watch someone back away the moment you start getting close? They say they're looking for love. They say they want someone loyal, someone kind, someone real. But when they finally find that person, when you walk in, calm, steady, consistent, they flinch, they pull back, they sabotage it, and you're left sitting there wondering, what did I do wrong? The truth, my friends, nothing. You just didn't fit the chaos they were used to. Let me explain. Imagine someone spent their whole life walking through storms. Every day, rain, thunder, unpredictable skies. That's their normal. That's what they know. Now imagine you come along offering clear skies, a warm sun, no sudden downpour, just peace. You'd think they'd be relieved, right? But instead, they get anxious. The silence makes them uncomfortable. The calm feels unfamiliar. They don't trust it. They keep looking up, waiting for the storm to come. Because in their world, love hurts. Love is inconsistent. Love is earned through pain. So when you give it freely, it doesn't feel safe. It feels fake. And here's the hard truth most people won't tell you. When someone hasn't healed, healthy love feels threatening. It shines a light on all the wounds they've hidden under temporary flings, emotional games, and half-built walls. Your consistency makes them nervous. Your kindness makes them suspicious. Your love, it terrifies them. Not because of you, but because of what it forces them to confront within themselves. You're not the problem, you're the mirror. When you show up whole, they see all the parts of themselves they've been avoiding, all the fears, insecurities, unresolved pain. And instead of stepping into healing, they run, because choosing you would mean letting go of their comfort zone. And some people would rather keep suffering in familiar pain than risk stepping into unknown peace. As the Stoics say, you cannot heal someone who clings to their chains. And some people are still holding on to their chains like their trophies. They're proud of their detachment. They mistake emotional numbness for strength. They call it guarded. But what they really mean is unavailable. And so, when they meet someone like you, someone open, someone real, it short-circuits everything they thought they understood about love. But let's get real here. That's not your job to fix. You are not a rehab center for emotionally unavailable people. You are not a rescue mission. You are not someone's project. You're a person with depth, with value, with a heart that deserves to be received, not just tolerated. And I know what you might be thinking. Maybe if I just give them time, maybe if I just love them harder, maybe they'll come around. But my friend, love that you have to prove isn't love. It's performance. And the stage you're dancing on, it was never built for two. You deserve someone who doesn't need convincing, someone who doesn't look at your love and get scared. They look at it and say, finally. So why is it so hard to let go of someone who runs from love? Because deep down, part of you might believe the same thing, that real love is earned through pain, that peace is suspicious, that being chosen without a struggle means you didn't fight hard enough. That belief? That's your wound talking. That's your inner child still hoping to be picked by the ones who never learned how to love properly. But today, we bury that lie. You are not too much for the right person. You are not too deep, too loving, too available. You are exactly right for someone who's ready. And if someone isn't ready, it's not your rejection, it's their reflection. So the next time someone pulls away after seeing the real you, let them. Don't chase, don't beg, don't shrink. Let them run while you rise. Because someone who is afraid of real love is not equipped to receive what you're offering. And the longer you hold on to them, the longer you delay what's meant for you. Write this in the comments right now. I will not shrink for love. Say it, type it, believe it. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you will not apologize for being ready, real, and available. And stay with me, because in the next part, we're getting into something powerful. The art of emotional detachment. How to stop reacting, how to reclaim your energy, and how to make your peace louder than their chaos. It's about to shift everything. 5. When you stop reacting, they start wondering. And in your silence, they hear everything they ignored. Let's talk about something powerful, something that most people misunderstand. Emotional detachment. The moment you stop needing them to text back, stop checking their social media, stop begging for scraps of attention, something shifts. Not just in them, but in you. You become quiet, not cold, calm, not careless. And in that silence, you begin to remember who you were before they made you forget. You see, people are used to you reacting. They're used to the late-night replies, the "Are you okay?" messages, the double texts, the emotional chases. They're used to you showing up, even when they don't. They've gotten comfortable with you, over-explaining, over-giving, overstaying. But when you stop, when your energy shifts, they feel it. Even if they don't say it, they feel the gap. That silence echoes louder than any argument ever could. Let me give you a visual. Imagine you're in a room where a radio has been playing static for hours. You've gotten used to the noise. It's annoying, but familiar. Then suddenly, it stops. The silence hits. And now, you notice how loud the quiet actually is. That's what happens when you pull your energy back. That's what your detachment sounds like to them. Not indifference, just absence. A loud, unmistakable absence. And that's when curiosity creeps in. Why aren't they texting like they used to? Why do they seem okay? Have they moved on? That's the part they never saw coming, because they thought you'd always be there. They thought your presence was guaranteed. They believed they could disappear and come back whenever they felt like it, and you'd be waiting with open arms. But when a high-value soul goes quiet, it shakes the ground. It forces them to sit with the very feelings they tried to make you carry. Now, the silence belongs to them. But let me be clear, emotional detachment isn't a trick. It's not about pretending. It's not about playing mind games. It's not cold-heartedness. It's discipline. It's the art of protecting your peace without asking for permission. It's about recognizing that you don't have to attend every emotional circus just because someone sent you a front-row ticket. As the Stoics say, he who angers you controls you. And my friends, the same applies to attention. She who makes you chase. He who keeps you guessing. They who withhold just enough to keep you emotionally starving. They control you as long as you react. But when you detach, you take your power back. You stop trying to decode mixed signals. You stop assigning meaning to silence. You stop waiting, and you start living. Now, this doesn't mean you become a stone. You still feel, you still care. But you don't bleed for people who only ever scratched the surface of who you are. You don't give all your energy to people who treat your heart like a backup plan. And sure, detaching is hard, especially when you've built a habit around emotional availability. You'll want to check in. You'll want to explain yourself. You'll want to make sure they know you still care. But you don't owe that. Not when your silence is rooted in self-respect. Not when your peace cost you so many sleepless nights to earn. The beauty of detachment is that it's quiet, but strong. It doesn't scream, "Look at me." It simply says, "I'll be over here, building." While they're still trying to figure out what they feel, you're already creating something new. Peace, purpose, power. You no longer react to their distance. You no longer beg for clarity. You let your absence speak where your words no longer hold value. Because when you stop chasing, they're forced to feel the space you used to fill. So let them wonder. Let them feel what they made you feel. And while they're lost in thought, you'll be finding yourself again. Write this in the comments right now. I protect my peace. Say it. Mean it. Let it be your quiet revolution. Because up next, we're unlocking one of the most surprising truths about attraction, how the ones who don't seem to care end up pulling others in the hardest. And once you see why, you'll never look at attention and value the same way again. Stay close. It only gets deeper from here. 6. Sometimes the ones who seem to care the least are the ones who are remembered the most. It's a strange thing, isn't it? How the people who barely try, who don't call, who don't chase, somehow live rent-free in the minds of the ones they pushed away, while the ones who showed up, who cared, who stayed, they're forgotten like background noise. It doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem logical. But it's real, and it has everything to do with how we're wired. You see, we live in a world that worships mystery, scarcity, distance. We assume that if something is hard to get, it must be worth more. So when someone pulls back, when they don't give us what we want, our minds start racing. Why aren't they interested? What are they doing? Are they talking to someone else? That curiosity becomes obsession, and obsession feels like attraction. Now picture this. You walk into a room and see 2 books on a shelf. One has notes scribbled all over the cover. It's been opened 100 times, pages worn, spine cracked, everything already revealed. The other? It's sealed. No title, no cover, just sitting there, untouched. Which one do you reach for first? Most people will pick the one that makes them wonder, because curiosity is a drug, and the mind hates an open loop. That's what happens when someone doesn't chase you. Their lack of effort creates a space your mind desperately wants to fill. Their silence makes noise in your head, and the more unpredictable they are, the more your brain tries to solve them, as if love was a riddle, as if being chosen by someone cold would suddenly prove your worth. But here's the lie. We confuse someone's emotional unavailability with value. We think that if they're distant, it must be because they're powerful, desired, high status. We give them a story they didn't earn. And meanwhile, the ones who are consistent, kind, available, they get overlooked. Not because they're boring, but because there's no mystery to chase. And that, my friends, is the paradox. The less someone seems to care, the more power they appear to have. It's not because they're better, it's because we've been conditioned to associate distance with dominance. We chase what ignores us because we think their lack of effort means they're valuable, when really, it might just mean they're emotionally unavailable or emotionally lazy. The Stoics understood this. They taught that desire is often born from illusion, from false perceptions we place on people who haven't even proven their worth. And they warned, don't place value where there is no virtue. Just because someone doesn't chase you doesn't mean they're better. It just means they're not chasing. That's it. Everything else? You built that in your mind. But let me flip the script for you. What if you became the one who doesn't overgive? The one who doesn't always reach out first? The one who stops proving and starts observing? You see, when you shift from chasing to choosing, everything changes. Suddenly, you're not the one creating value in others. You're the one standing in your own. And that, right there, is magnetic. People don't miss those who were loud and desperate for attention. They miss the ones who were silent but significant, the ones who knew their worth and didn't give it away for free, the ones who didn't need validation to feel whole. That kind of energy sticks to people. It lingers in rooms long after you leave. It echoes in their silence. You don't have to fake detachment. You just have to build a life so full, so rich, so purpose-driven, that their attention becomes optional, not essential. When you live like that, people feel it. They sense it. And whether they admit it or not, it draws them in. Because confidence isn't loud. It's unbothered. So if you've ever felt invisible for being kind, overlooked for being real, forgotten for being consistent, understand this. Your time is not wasted. It was just given to the wrong audience. The right ones don't need you to disappear to see your value. Write this in the comments right now. I no longer chase indifference. Say it with your chest. Let the world see what quiet strength looks like. Let them feel the shift when you finally stop giving energy to people who only become curious once you stop caring. And stick with me, because next, we're going to flip the whole game. We'll talk about why you should stop trying to be the one they choose and start becoming the one they regret losing. This is where the power starts to turn. Don't go anywhere. 7. Don't waste your life trying to be the one they choose. Become the one they never recover from losing. It's wild how much energy we spend trying to be enough for someone else, trying to be chosen, trying to be picked. We dress it up as love, but let's call it what it really is. Fear. Fear that if they don't want us, we must not be valuable. Fear that if they walk away, it means something's wrong with us. So what do? We adjust, we shrink, we overcompensate. We try to impress people who wouldn't even notice us if we went silent for a week. And in doing so, we forget who we are. But let me hit you with the truth, my friend. Your power doesn't come from being picked. It comes from being at peace with not being picked. It comes from knowing your value without waiting for someone else to validate it. Because when you chase approval, you hand them the pen and let them write your story. But when you stop chasing, when you stand still in your worth, you become unforgettable. Not because you begged to be remembered, but because you never needed to be chosen to be complete. Think of it like this. Imagine two people standing at a riverbank. One is waving, shouting, trying to get someone across the river to notice them. The other stands still, calm, focused on their own journey. Guess which one leaves a lasting impression? It's not the one making the most noise. It's the one who radiates quiet power. The one who doesn't need to convince anyone. The one who says without words, "You'll realize what I was once. You can't reach me anymore." That's who you need to become. Stop trying to be the one they pick, because even if they choose you, you'll spend the entire relationship trying to keep their attention. That's not love, that's survival. And you weren't born to survive love. You were born to thrive in it. You were born to be loved deeply, not conditionally, not when it's convenient, not when it's easy, but fully and consistently. But here's the truth. They won't see it until it's gone. Most people don't. They won't notice how deeply you cared until they feel the absence of your effort. They won't realize how much you brought to their life until they sit in silence and hear the echo of your presence. That's human nature, to overlook what's consistent, to chase what walks away, to desire what no longer desires them. And that's why your job is not to force yourself into anyone's life. Your job is to build one so fulfilling that those who left feel it when they're no longer welcome in it. You don't have to become cold. You just have to stop warming up people who were never planning to stay. As the Stoics say, you are not responsible for the perception others have of your worth. You are only responsible for how you carry it. And when you carry it with pride, with peace, with quiet confidence, you become the type of person people regret walking away from. You become the lesson. And let's be honest, some people need to lose you to understand what they had. Some people can't learn through conversation. They only learn through consequences. So let your absence be the teacher. Let your silence be the reminder. And let your growth be the proof that you never needed to be chosen. You just needed to stop offering yourself to people who didn't deserve the offer in the first place. Because the truth is, they may never say it, they may never admit it, but they'll feel it in the way they scroll back to your messages, in the way they search for pieces of you in people who will never measure up, in the way they'll remember your voice, your presence, your energy, long after you've stopped checking for theirs. In conclusion, my friends, the moment you stop chasing and start choosing yourself, everything changes. You become the lesson, not the option. So protect your peace, know your worth, and walk in quiet confidence. If this spoke to you, like the video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs this truth.